Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order our City Council budget meeting for Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. First order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Smith, if you take roll call, please.
Mayor Jacobs?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dold?
Here.
Councilmember Hughes?
Here.
Councilmember Witt? Here. Councilmember King?
Here.
Councilmember Dold?
Here.
Councilmember Karafotis?
Here.
You have a quorum of 7.
Thank you. Okay, before we get into our item 4 items for consideration, we have a community event coming up. So I'd like to call up Garden City Skating Club President, Miss Mickey Roll.
Hi, guys. Hello, Mayor and members of the council. I'll start formally, right? Is that loud enough? Yeah. My name is Mickey. This is Jen. We're president and treasurer of GCFSC. We are excited to introduce to you the Garden City Figure Skating Club, which is based out of our home rink, Garden City Ice Arena. Our club, a little bit about our club, it's been around, part of the community for over 45 years, offering skating opportunities for kids as young as 3 all the way through adulthood. We are currently proud to serve anywhere between 50 to 70 local skaters through our Learn to Skate program, and many of our club members have gone on to compete at regional and national levels. We are affiliated with U.S. Figure Skating, with many of our skaters representing our city as they compete in USFS sanctioned events. We are also part of the Detroit Skating Council, which also aids in our club exposure as well. Beyond the medals and trophies, though, we're proudly building confidence, leadership, and lifelong friendships through their journey on and off the ice. We're passionate about making figure skating accessible, fun, and welcoming to everyone in Garden City, and we're excited to continue growing within the community. We are excited to host annual ice shows, field trips, and holiday exhibitions that bring hundreds of visitors and families from all over into our city. That being said, we would like to invite and welcome the mayor, city council, and all local residents to our biggest show of the year, Into the Wild, which is debuting nightly on May 8th, 9th, and 10th at 7 p.m. at Garden City Ice Arena. Skaters of all ages and levels will excitedly showcase their developing skating skills, of which they've worked so hard on throughout the year, and it is sure to entertain. We hope you'll will join us as we take you into the wild next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know I've been to a few of the shows in past years, and they're always really, really well put on and really entertaining, from the real little ones to the little bit older ones. But
Yeah.
I kind of get a kick out of the little ones. They're
It's
cute.
definitely a fun show. Our biggest one is a lot of fun. So.
Yep. So thank you very much, and hopefully everybody can make it May 8th, 9th, and 10th, 7 p.m., Garden City Ice Arena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is items for consideration, and we'll start with our lighting assessment, and Mr. Gibbons, city manager.
Actually, Mayor, I believe we'll start with the water and sewer
do
rate,
water? Okay.
tonight. Just the way I think the PowerPoints were loaded, it'll go good that way. So, Mayor and Council, as you're aware, in March, I became aware when Treasurer Deanne Irby was with us. She brought to my attention at the beginning of the budget process that the water and sewer fund became significantly underfunded. She advised that we were essentially, the general fund was loaning money to the water fund to pay its day-to-day costs. During the course of the audit, I think you probably saw a slide that said our working capital funds were in the negative. So ultimately, we were leaning on the city's general fund in order to make payments until water revenues from billing show up. But even then, at the end of the year, we anticipate a deficit in the water fund. So immediately, I got to kind of looking into, how did this happen? You're going to ask 2 questions when something like that you become aware of. You say, well, how did it happen, and what are we going to do about it? So, I began examining the the how did it happen part, but for the what are we going to do about it, I requested council to enlist Plant Moran to develop a water rate study to analyze our needs for water rates and what kind of revenues we need to maintain our system going into the future. I also began to examine our, during the budget process, our staffing levels and, what we were billing to the water fund for water services and if there's any of those could be thinned out. You'll notice in your budget, we reduced our personnel costs by reducing the number assigned to the water fund down to 14.8. I believe in the people sheets it says 15.8. It counted a person that actually isn't in there, but that's on the proposed budget. We'll fix that when it comes to the full. But we've reduced our numbers down to lower than even 2017 in the water fund. So, I want to attack this from two ways. One, we have to raise more revenues to adjust water rates. I'll put some proposed rates in front of you tonight about that. But also, we're going to do our best to operate the fund efficiently, only spending where we absolutely have to until we can recover. It's recommended that a water fund have at least a minimum of $3 million in working capital at any given time. That allows us to make payments to vendors and contractors and our employees and anyone we do business with using water fund money, and then and get repaid by the revenues that come in with it. And then have that $3 million in case of an emergency. If we have a water main break or something that requires an extensive repair that's costly, or any other type of equipment failure that's costly, that we have the funds to be able to make those repairs instantly and not have to go out for debt to just keep things running. So, the study that returned from Plant Moran kind of has a mix of both. I mixed in a couple slides, and I'll mix in some information I came up with to how we got here, but also this presentation will sort of be a blend of what happened and what we're going to do next. This presentation, is largely informed by Plant Moran, and they provided this PowerPoint to assist in how addressing the utility rate model. They will be producing a written document on their findings between now and the public hearing date we're calling for. But given that we're calling for that public hearing today, and these rates are extreme, the rate raises are significant and need to be addressed when you propose such a rate increase, that I just wanted to go over how we got here and what we're going to do. First, Garden City has, over the last, I believe 9 years, had really, really low commodity rate increases. We haven't increased the cost of water or cost of sewer in a manner that kept up with inflation, and certainly not in a manner that kept up with the level of spending we've done over the last 6 years. We've been better about raising the fixed portion of the utility rate. We have raised the fixed portion. The fixed portion isn't related to how much you use, it's just the cost of the system at a base level. This fixed rate is tough because it's hardest on anyone who has any water access in town, not even just the users. So your seniors tend to get hit a little harder with the fixed rate. That's about the only thing that's been raised. The commodity rates have been raised, but not in any manner that kept up with the actual costs. So why fixed rates raised didn't work? Although the city's been better about raising them, the city has not increased utility rates at the level necessary to pay for operations and capital projects on the fixed rate side, because it only accounts for 20% of our budget. So the actual cost, the commodity rates where we charge you how much you use, is really the lion's share of the revenue we bring in, and have gone largely unincreased. So this is what happens when you don't increase rates properly. This is the most telling of our graphs as to how we got here. In 2017, we had $9.2 million in our reserve water fund. We were a very healthy fund, very well off as far as what we need. We're ready for emergencies, had no issues with working capital. And when you're sitting on $9.2 million, you're actually making some money on interest, so it's even a revenue source. Since then, since 2018, we spent over $9 million in the water and sewer fund, but we did not raise rates. So we spent $5 million in capital improvements on just the water infrastructure. We spent approximately $620,000 in vehicles. We spent $700,000 on equipment, $635,000 roughly in meters, and then another $350,000 in office and building improvements. So we did a lot of capital investment into a water system that is in need of repair and it is in need of improvement. There's no argument there. But we spent it quickly, and we did not raise our rates. So we had a cash flow problem, and we burnt through money since 2018 to the point now where, if you recall this slide from the audit, We finished last budget year, so on June 30th, we finished actually negative $500,000 in our water fund. So 2018, $9.2 million, 2024, June 30th, negative nearly $500,000.
Excuse me. Last year in '24 is when there was the negative?
Yes, we finished, our audit just finished and reviewed our water fund, and the beginning of the negative for us was really in 2024. So we finished that fiscal year, the general fund essentially beginning to prop up the water fund at that point. So from the how did that happen, this isn't a Plant Moran slide. This is Tim Gibbons doing his best to account for, do some treasury work and create a bar graph that explains where the money went. If you include our capital and our operating expenses over the course of the last 6 years, from 2019 to 2024, each year we lost approximately $1.5 million to $2 million. We just kept spending and we did not increase rates. And it's a theme I'll continue to repeat. It's very easy to say we need to replace lead service lines. I 100% agree with that. It's very easy to say we need to replace our water mains when we open up the road and do road construction. Very simple, and I agree, water system is essential. It's one of the most fundamental responsibilities we have as a municipality is to provide clean, safe drinking water. However, the hard part of doing the spending that you need to do is telling people you need to increase rates to be able to afford to do it. And that's the thing that didn't occur. I've looked at all these expenses, I tracked. They went through the proper approval channels. They were sent towards things that are legitimate water expenses as far as I could tell. But they happened at a very, very quick pace, again, with no increases to offset those expenses. So the model we have, and really essentially the problem we have, our model requires that we adapt this cash needs basis. And right now, our water fund needs cash. It needs cash to make ends meet on a daily basis. And as I've mentioned before in my comments about the importance of a good general fund, I believe the same as a good, strong water fund, because when things happen, let's say in this case, for Garden City's sake, we had a mismanagement of our water fund, we're then able to lean on our general fund to get some time so that we can correct what happened. Otherwise, you don't have the cash to pay your bills. But fortunately, we do. But what we ask Plant Moran and Plant Moran wants to do is get us on a model where we get back to we have the proper amount of cash in the bank to continue day-to-day operations and be prepared for any emergencies. So this cash needs basis model sets the rates based on anticipated cash needs. That doesn't count depreciation. So, depreciation is the value of an asset when you buy it, and then count that you've lost that money, you need to replace it with funds. There's no accounting tricks. This is literally just the cash we need to operate on a daily basis and maintain a healthy system. This method requires a city to maintain lower cash reserves. So if we counted depreciation, we would need even more, but we're not. And really, we're simply focused on now returning ourselves to a good working capital. So why 5 years? To avoid what's happening this year. We try and do a 5-year model, and the city has in the past, and if we had abided by obtaining a model for a 5-year period and then paying attention to that model and living within our own means, we wouldn't be in this case right now, but we are. So going forward, we're going to adopt a 5-year model. Doesn't mean we're going to predict out rates for 5 years and actually adopt them today. It means each year we'll look at them. But the 5-year model should prevent, as long as we're disciplined and we maintain this approach, is that it stops these spikes. It's more of a smooth transition. You don't get yourself into a position where your general fund is owed money by your water fund as it currently is. So we want a smoother operation to our water fund and not create what we have this year is a rate spike and give citizens consistency and fairness. I don't like the position we've been put in or what we have to do to fix it. Nor do I like any of these recommended increases that will come out of this. But I acknowledge their necessity, and I acknowledge that it's important to be able to provide the service we do. And what they've recommended at Plant Moran, and they do this for places across Southeast Michigan when they get into these type of situations, they recommend the rip the Band-Aid off approach. It's significant increases in their first year because it's unrealistic to expect the city to raise 20 or 30% for 5 straight years, and instead have one large increase in year 1 to get our system back on track, and then we could smooth out our rate increases to 4 or 5% for the next 4 years. And why that's particularly important, not just for the simple smoothing, is that we are cash poor right now in our water fund. That is the real reason in my mind that it needs to be a drastic increase in order just to return us back to normal. The 5-year model is not a 5-year commitment. Doesn't mean anything we're looking at today is you're committed to. The only thing we're going to be committed to is what we're doing next year. And what we're doing next year is hopefully shoring up our fund and getting ourselves back on the right track. Every year we should look at water rates, to whether they go up or down based on the increases or decreases that are necessary to maintain a working water system. As I've spoken, and every time I've really spoken about any of my thoughts on municipal government, what's important, get the cops to your front door in a short period of time, get an ambulance to your door in a short period of time, keep the roads good, and keep the water turned on. I mean, those are our core function, and this is one of our most essential ones. And to understand the way water funds work, water funds are essentially its own enterprise fund. It's its own entity within the city. There's the general fund, and then there's the water fund. There's other funds around that, but the two big ones are our general fund and water fund. And water fund should be able to maintain itself. That's the whole model. It should be able to draw in revenues from rates and billing in order to satisfy what it needs to maintain a healthy system. And that's what we're trying to do here, and we want to look at it each 5 years. Garden City, in our model and the calculations that Plant Moran utilized to come up with these recommendations, is that we continue to purchase water from Great Lakes Water, of course. They initially announced an increase this year of 7% per Plant Moran, and subsequently lowered it to 5.9%. They will assume a 7% increase going forward. This model builds in that they anticipate those increases. Garden City will continue to pay Rouge Valley Sewage Disposal to provide our wastewater treatment, and in 2026, of course, their highest increase occurred of 4%. Assume a 3% going forward, but monitor this assumption for next year budget. Just again, it's a living document. We have to keep pace and have to pay attention to that. As far as capital improvements done, we had done a lot of capital improvements over the last 5 years, so I'm a little more comfortable saying we don't need as much for capital improvement. But remember, this is a very we're a city with a rich history. We've been around a long time. We have some older water mains that break, and I think in February we had 60. So there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done to maintain a system in a city that's been around as long as we have. So you do need capital investment. That said, our capital improvement plan that's in the budget, our 5-year plan, includes $8.5 million of capital improvement. I spoke with Plant Moran. Their initial recommendation was a much higher rate increase, actually, than even the one we're looking at today. I said, well, no, we're just not going to do capital at that level. We're going to have to reduce it to something much more reasonable. And so this model anticipates $2.5 million into the water system and $1.6 million into the sewer system over 5 years. That's under $1 million a year. You know, water mains break, things happen that require maintenance, and capital is necessary. This model also attempts to get us to at that minimum of $3 million in our working capital fund. Debt service, this model doesn't calculate in any debt service or taking out debt. However, I will say this is there's something going for Garden City is that we're a very low debt city. We don't have a lot of debt. So that we do have the ability when capital projects come that might be bigger than these amounts is to go out and bond for it and be able to maintain, be able to get us through and spread out those costs over a long period of time. But that said, capital projects are okay to bond for. But our operating costs, which is really our trouble these days, is just being able to pay the bills and pay back some of the money we've taken from the general fund out of the water fund, from the water fund. We don't bond for that. That is essentially running up a credit card debt on your day-to-day operations. Now, a capital purchase is a lot lower, like a mortgage. You put a water main in the ground. It's got a 20, 30-year value. You can spread that over logically with a decent rate over a long period of time. However, not comfortable going out for debt just to make ends meet today. That doesn't actually fix our problem. That just prolongs it. And there's no change to the fixed readiness to serve charge. We talked about that. That only really provides us 20% of the revenue. And as I said, all focus is on the commodity rates, on usage. That way, you know, citizens who see an increase can at least have some control over their water rates, and by trying to use it as little, use it less and be more conservative. And some of our senior residents, you know, where fixed costs tend to hit the hardest because they're not using a ton of water, but when you do a fixed cost, it increases the cost of water for them without them actually using more. So, you know, when you do that fixed cost, you're putting it on every household that has access to water, every business, instead of those that are actually using it the most. And I think the commodity rates are the best way to approach it at this point in time, and then really the only thing Plant Moran was recommending. So if you're wondering where the money goes, our operational costs take about 43% of it. That's administration, legacy costs and the like. The cost of water purchase and sewer treatment is our largest, is at 47%. Vendors' capital improvements is around 7%, and current debt service, we do have some loans out for repairs we've done over the last bunch of years of about 3%. Those are the four categories that really drive any water systems costs. Here's our history over the last 10 years, and you can see where we just haven't been raising them even enough to keep up with inflation. We went all the way back and looked all the way till 2017 at those rate increases, and we dropped 2% in 2017 and 0% in 18. But I can look at 2017 and 2018 and say, I get it. You got $9.2 million in reserves. Do you need to raise rates when you have that much money? Probably not. I understand. You can let the system absorb it if your costs haven't accelerated and if you feel like you're in a good position. But beginning in 2018, 2019, 2020, where we start really spending a lot of money, 2019 is our first year where we have a 3% increase, and I believe that's really just keeping pace with the cost of water, not even the cost to operate our system. 2021, 2022, we have 7% increases, and then 23, 1%, 24 is a -1, and in 2025, we have a 1% increase. So that's over 9 years, that's less than 2% per year, I believe, if my math is correct. That's not keeping up with inflation. I think in 1 year post-COVID, we had an 8-point-something% inflation year. So we have artificially kept our rates low over the last 9 years to the tune of about $1.5 million to $2 million a year burning through our own reserves. And as when you look at our general fund, and I've discussed this with council, and you can look on our general fund budget, we make about $450,000 in interest because we still have a relatively healthy general fund. So a general fund is two things. It's an insurance policy, but when times are good and they're paying out a decent amount of money on interest rates, it's also a revenue source. So if we still had $9 million in the bank today, we could anticipate making $400 and some thousand a year on it and put that, and that helps keep rates lower on a revenue source that's reasonable. It's not just burning through your savings account to make your ends meet. So when I look at these rates, I understand how we got where we are. When you keep rates this low, you have two choices. We have really one choice. You just can't spend money, but we did. But it's also not realistic not to spend money on a water system at the same time. You do have to maintain it. You do have personnel costs rise. Capital improvements costs rise. The cost of purchasing water and sewer rise. So we just have to be responsible and keep pace. These are our proposed rates over the next 5 years. 2026, this is the rip the Band-Aid off approach. Plant Moran has recommended a 61% increase in water and sewer total. No percent increase in our fixed water and sewer, and resulting basically to your total water bill about 49% increase. In the following years, the weighted total being about a 4% increase to your bill overall until 2030. This assumes that Great Lakes Water raises it 7% over the next number of years. It basically smooths out, as Plant Moran has mentioned in their previous slides, about smoothing out the rates, keeping it reasonable, but just really getting it fixed this year and getting the problem solved going forward. Again, with the emphasis not just to smoothing out, though, is that the system is in dire need of cash quick. So what does this impact? A council member actually took out their water bill and said, hey, let's look at this and see what it means. Two things I want to mention on this. One is someone put forth, hey, why do you guys use 1,000 cubic feet as your measurement for water? Well, that's from Great Lakes Water. That's how we've done our ordinances for some period of time. Looking around at how other places post their water rates, some do mention gallons, some do cubic feet, some do 100 cubic feet. There's a variety. But I had great concern about changing the way we present anything right now while I'm raising rates like this. I think it would come across as deceptive. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to be as transparent as possible. But what I do like when I see our water bill is that we do break it down. 1,000 cubic or 100 cubic feet of water is 748 gallons. So really, right now, you are paying $3.39 roughly for 748 gallons of water. The new proposed rate would be $6.97 for that same amount of money, or same amount of water. And sewer rate at $5.72 would move to $7.07 for that same gallons of sewer. Nothing desirable about this, other than it does get us to a point where we're back to normal. Does this mean when we increase water rates at 61%, your bill goes up that way? No. As this bill has an example, this is a usage of 10 units, and the bill in today would be $121, and the same bill under the new rates would be $177.38. So a significant increase, and nothing to not acknowledge is a significant increase. But I can't repair what has happened to the water fund. I can't go back and put that $9.2 million back. I can't go and change any of those decisions. This is where we are today, and we have to provide water. This is a recommendation from Plant Moran. I do agree with their approach. I do believe that the best way to solve this is get the system back to solid again and smooth out those rates over the next number of years, and we make the adjustment in the first year. That said, I was not elected to sit where you guys are. You guys ultimately have to make the vote and make that determination. And I'm more than willing to answer any questions, provide any information, communicate with Plant Moran, who's been more than willing to speak with us and address this issue and come up with any solutions we can, and open to anything. But today, given where we are today, we have to propose some rates, and we have to hold a hearing to approve water rates on May 19th. So I wanted to give council this presentation today to give you 3 weeks to consider that. We're not making any votes on this today. And I wanted to start the conversation, as I believe it's an important one and one we need to take serious as our fiduciary responsibility to our citizens. So our next steps: decide how much debt to issue when it comes to capital. Like I said, there's really not much we can do with operations, but issuing any debt today will only help us with capital projects. We don't really anticipate any capital projects in the near future. And then update this model, approve and implement the rate increases, and continue updating the model on an annual basis. And open to any questions from council. And
what I'll say right now before we open it up is the public will have a chance to speak on all this at on the public comment section. For right now, the council can have this discussion, and we'll discuss the other one. And then when we get to public comment, we'll have a discussion on that from the public. So for right now, council, questions, discussion.
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
Okay, so just to be clear, we had $9.1 million, and in 6 years, we spent all of it.
Yep, since 2018, we spent.
Okay, you said that in '24, we were $500,000 in the hole.
Correct.
Okay, but we weren't told that last year.
So at the end of 2024, so.
Okay, you said June of '24, that's what it was.
Yeah, June of '24, so.
So when we had this budget discussion last year, we were told we were in the best financial shape we've ever been in. So.
Yeah, I can't account for any statements made by the prior administration about the financial status of the city.
Yeah,
I can tell you what I've inherited, and our water fund has definitely been healthier.
And then you said that a healthy water fund where we keep at least $3 million in there, right?
Correct.
So when Plant Moran previously did our audits, which we get an audit every year, how come we weren't told when we got close to that $3 million that we were dangerously low?
Again, I can't explain any previous administration statements on what the health of the fund was. I do know these numbers are presented by Plant Moran. They are contained in the audit. And, I would anticipate that administration would bring that to council's attention.
So I will say from here on out, I will never make a vote again without saying, how is our fund balance and where are we at?
Once we are through stopping the issue that is currently our most significant issues, which is just getting the ship in the right direction. It's my intention over the next few months after that is to develop some policy and procedures that kind of create an alarm system for council to be alerted when, let's say it goes below $3 million, that every time some purchase is made or something, maybe a statement or something has to be attached.
Agreed.
I haven't settled on any one particular thing to recommend, but I do believe it's necessary that, we always kind of keep our compass out when it comes to our funds, both our general fund and our water fund.
Do you know how much is in our rainy day fund right now?
In our rainy day fund, I couldn't tell you at this particular moment.
Okay.
We're healthy enough to continue this in the short term. I've inquired about that pretty regularly. We do have we have the ability to access cash to meet our day-to-day operations. We are in anticipation of some refunding for the Marquette water main project, which will help. It will certainly help with our cash flow in the short term. But in the long term, because we have a structural deficit that's created within the system, it will just eventually dry that up too. So,
Right.
We have to get back on the right side of it.
Okay, so we're 500,000 in the hole, and we've been borrowing from our general fund.
Yes, I would say at this point, we're farther in the hole than the 500,000 on June 30th. I couldn't give you a specific number as today based on just kind of where we're at, what's been paid, and things like that.
I mean, is there an
But it's not
idea of
getting
how-
better until we fix the rates.
Is there an idea of how much we owe the general fund from the water fund?
I'd say it's in the millions, but I'd have to, on the 30th, we have a treasurer starting, and I'm excited.
Okay.
But I can also request that of Plant Moran, and I actually discussed that this morning to try and hammer down exactly what I think that number is. But so much is fluid based on, accounts payable and, exactly what bill comes due throughout the year. So I can speak to the last year's because that's an audited number as to what, at the end of the year in 2024, on that budget year, $493,000 is what Plant Moran states essentially the general fund was floating for the water.
Okay, I guess I would just say, my opinion currently is that I understand the part about ripping the Band-Aid off, but as a resident, the idea of water bill going up that much is not something that I would want to hear. As a council member, I understand the purpose, but I'm just wondering if there could be further discussion about us not doing it all in one huge thing. Like, could it be half of that and then another half in 6 months and another half in or another portion in 6 months, that kind of thing, instead of just saying, okay, we're going to increase it that much. So I hope that's something that we can talk about.
Absolutely, and that's the purpose of my presentation tonight, is to get council's opinions on this. I can only, I'm going to lean heavy on Plant Moran, because this is what they do. So when they make a recommendation and a solid argument to me, I tend to agree with it. But at the same time, again, council has to vote on this. Citizens have to pay the bill. So I'm here to make some recommendations and then listen to your feedback and come up with a recommendation that fits with both of those things.
Yeah, when you talked about the bill that you showed and you said the average person's water bill is $120, it's only going to go up to $170. Well, if you own a business and you're paying a $1,000 water bill, that took it up to $1,500.
Yeah,
So it's a lot. There's a lot of people that have pools or have sprinkler systems or whatever, so the average person doesn't have a $120 water bill.
And just to clarify, that was not an average bill.
know, but
That was just a bill with a family of 4 living in it that I was provided that said, hey, this is an idea of how that would look. Everyone's water rate is different, and everyone's financial situation is different. So I want to make no averages or how it would impact anybody. It was just a demonstration of how this billing was going to directly impact at least one example.
I just think that this is a community where we are middle of the road. I don't think we have a bunch of rich people in Garden City, and I don't think hearing an increase of even $100 is a lot for most people. So
Understandable.
that's all.
Mayor,
Further, Councilmember Dole.
I just want to clarify. So with what Plant Moran is recommending we do, if we follow their plan, at the end of 5 years, we will have paid back our general fund.
Correct.
And we will have taken care of that $500,000 or more
Yes.
that we're in the hole right now.
Correct.
Plus have an additional $3 million, which is the minimum recommended amount in the water fund.
Correct.
We'd have an additional?
We would have $3 million in our reserves.
Okay,
Yeah, plus the 500 that,
okay. Oh, we would just have that.
Yes.
We'd just have the $3 million that we're supposed to. Okay.
Yes. But we will have paid back the other monies.
The general fund will be made whole. The water fund will have its minimum recommended reserves, and any capital things that have come up, we would have been able to address.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mayor,
Councilmember King.
and I guess just to piggyback on that, we would have $2.5 million if there was no capital projects for the next 5 years.
No, we would have $3 million in reserves with $4.1 million. $3 million with $4.1 million of capital projects over that 5 years period.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I guess just to add, a little bit interested in the staggering the rate increase also to help. But I guess I would like to see, obviously I would imagine the water usage is much higher in the summer than I imagine in the winter, so I guess that would have to be factored in.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, the model would have to be, approached with Plant Moran. What does this actually do in a dollar for dollar thing? But
Yeah, like if you split it for half, you wouldn't necessarily get other half
It
the
wouldn't be
money, the second
50-50.
half, if you did it the
It could be
least amount of water
60-40.
being used. Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that affects the timing of getting back on track.
Exactly. Yep, that's what I
I
was
think
trying
if
to
we
get to.
split it, though, I think that the hard part of that is if I have a pool and my bill comes during the summer, I'm not going to see the benefits of the second part of it when the bill comes in the second half, in the fall or winter. So I think that would be a hard way to do it, dividing it up that way versus maybe another way somehow, or ripping the Band-Aid off. I think,
Wouldn't it work if we, say we did 50/50 1 year apart? Wouldn't that take care of that issue?
Yeah, yeah.
And but it may take a little bit longer to get back on track. I can't imagine it taking that much longer, but that's something we can ask Plant Moran, right?
Absolutely. No, I'll ask them both about the 6-month and the 50/50, the 1 and 2 years. You know,
Yeah, I agree, that 1 year, I think, would probably, it would, everything would come out in the wash that way.
yeah.
for a
And,
person.
you know, I'm going to ask him two key questions. One, how does it impact us getting back on track over the 5 years? But two, how does this affect our working capital over that short term? And, you know, and then I'll bring that answer to council for their.
Thank you.
I guess just to add to that, I guess that second year, it wouldn't necessarily be split in the first year by 2, I guess initially for the first year, but the second year would be the other half plus the 8% you already talked about.
Oh, yeah, plus the 5.
So that year 2, we're back on track, literally back on track. Otherwise, I guess you're pushing it all back.
4%, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the percentage was for year 2, if I'm off by.
And the other thing I might want to consider is any interest on that income. If we do it even versus a little heavier on the front side, year 1 versus year 2, we might make some revenue make some interest on the savings,
I can ask them.
if that'll have an impact, if it's significant or not.
And I guess another question I would have in regards to that, does that push off our first, I mean, obviously, we're not doing any capital projects this upcoming year. Does that delay us another year doing any capital projects on our water main? I assume it would, but.
Yeah, I would. I would imagine. I'll speak to them about it and how that would affect the model. But yeah, any really delay just prolongs it a little longer.
Right.
further comments?
Yeah, just want to point out, you mentioned from the Marquette project, but that's included in the proposal, that reimbursement we hope to get.
Yes, they've taken
on
that into
that.
consideration, that we had the bond and that the reimbursement was anticipated. I'll definitely clarify, but that was it was part of my discussion with Plant Moran even this morning and last week.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Dold?
So we talked earlier, but do you have, I know it's not going to be a lot, but since Garden City does not turn water off for delinquent water bills, we get them back through Wayne County taxes.
Yes.
Do you have any idea on an average what we get back?
So we always get made whole based on a collection of taxes. It's just the amount of time it takes. And then there is some, when it comes to working capital, it does make it more difficult because we don't turn water off when it's at a shorter point. It takes about 1.5 years to recover that money. So at any given time, we could be floating $1 million and $1.5 million out there owed to us that we've already put the water through the system that we're not paid on. But by not shutting it off and waiting for taxes, that money is we're just essentially loaning the system that money until it gets repaid. So there's a cost to that. Do we get repaid? Absolutely. In the short term, though, there is a little pain for the system in that not shutting off.
And I know we do have some money coming back for reimbursements on a few things. Lead pipe reimbursement. And I know we've also gone forward with some grants, trying to get some money for some infrastructure. So hopefully we can get that. We can continue doing some water main work. Hopefully our representatives will give that to us.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's important for me to mention that in order to really, I took all of our focus for my requests to elected officials when they're seeking any appropriations from state or federal agencies, that they all pretty much be directed towards water right now. I asked a couple road projects, but most of the lion's share of my focus was on water, as I know that's probably the greatest need capital-wise for the city right now, and probably give the most benefit in if we awarded those to lessen the amount of rate increases we need in the future. You know, you can never count on that, but if it showed up, it would be nice and it could assist us.
Would be nice. Further comments, discussion, questions? Okay, we'll move on then to the lighting assessment.
More fun topics. You know, it's my goal to be transparent and to explain everything you see in front of you. And I know that in 2023, Garden City passed its lighting assessment for a 5-year period from 2023 to 2028. This accounted for about $30.39 to each citizen or each household to pay for streetlights. And that this, during the course of, on the May 20th, 2024 meeting, that was removed from our billing. Council had questions and concerns, and I believe at the time was under the impression that we were in a much different financial shape. So I wanted to answer some questions about it, let council know that based on the way the vote took place on May 20th, that I didn't have the authority to pull it out of our budget. However, council does, again, have the ability to vote it out. But I also wanted to provide some information. It's my job as a city manager to make recommendations and keep you informed as to what decisions you make and where I think I can be useful as to informing those decisions. So, as I stated, it was May 20th. Specifically, because the language that was stated to be removed was $350,000, I spoke with the city attorney. He said that means it's that's the amount of a 1-year assessment that was removed. So we have really, you must vote annually to continue non-collection until the ordinance expires in 2028, or you know, if you remember when we removed the sidewalk ordinance, I stated to get rid of an ordinance, you have to do the same procedure you did to put it in place. So council would have the option at some point to call a public hearing and have it removed from 2028. But until then, I put it before you, and if you tell me if you want to collect it or not. That was the recommendation I received. So I noticed during that meeting, though, as I watched it to understand the vote, that the legality of using the assessment for electricity costs was in question. And I wanted to provide accurate guidance, both from myself, my review of it, but also speaking with the city attorney. The assessment is legally supported to pay for electricity costs under the operation and maintenance portion of our ordinance, and I'll be specific in the next 2 slides as to how that is. Our city attorney Bennett confirmed electricity costs is a valued use for the lighting assessment. Improvement is sort of a term of art in the state. It's given to us by the Home Rule Cities Act, which really allows us as a city to exist and make decisions and create rules and laws. Every municipality in Michigan operates basically on the purview of the state. The state allows us to operate as we do through the Home Rule City Act and as a city in Garden City, or as the city of Garden City. The original intent of this, and I looked back to Darryl McClary, and then I spoke with City Manager Bob Murray, and some of those like, hey, what was the point? And his original intent was to pay the electricity bill to be able to afford streetlights being on. He also, speaking specifically with the city manager Murray, he mentioned that, hey, I was trying to also upgrade city streetlights as well, because I felt like, hey, anywhere I had some extra money, citizens were paying for streetlights, I should do my best to improve the construction of them, not just improve them by keeping them on. But when we come back to that word improvement, the Home Rule City Act, that's Michigan Compiled Laws 1174D, allows for special assessments for public improvements. Improvement is interpreted broadly and includes maintenance, repair, and operation and upgrades. And providing electricity is essential for maintaining the function and value of streetlights. Improvement includes activities that sustain infrastructure use and benefits. So the power that goes through the lights is an improvement because the light goes on the property is improved by the use of the light. Improvement, this word improvement given to us by the Home Rule City Act, is in our charter. Our Charter Article 4 allows for special assessments, and then our ordinance, specifically in Section 4011, allows assessments for all improvements consisting of the construction, installation, maintenance, and operation. That operation word is key. Facilities and equipment for street lighting. Improvement is not limited to adding new infrastructure. You can use it to pay for the electricity bills. It sustains and operates and enhances the value of street lighting. And uses of assessments for electricity cost align fully with the ordinance's authority. Comparison to other communities, I also wanted to make sure, hey, are we doing something that's different from anybody else in that 5-year $30.89 per year? Wayne, Westland, and Livonia levy similar or higher assessments. Wayne charges $75.63 per residential property, and some cities assess only homes with lights, others spread it across citywide. It just kind of depends on the choice of the council at that time. Just for the last little bit of information, electricity for street lighting has increased from $479,000 to $650,000 over about 2 years, about a 35% increase in cost. Back when the lighting assessment instituted, $400,000 to $450,000 was a pretty regular electricity bill for street lights. It's gone up now. We're over $650,000. I think we project $680,000 for street lighting this year. The cost without assessments over $650,000. The good news is, though, and thank you to our community development or Matt Miller, we've got 2 grants to change our system to nearly all LED streetlights, so that should help with the cost. We've had some initial estimates, and you know, it's a decent amount of money we'll save by going to all LED. The first part of the grant is available, and we're guessing in about a year. That comes from Eagle. The second part is SEMCOG. That'll be in 2028, so it won't be overnight, but with those 2 grant awards, we should be able to pretty much get all of our non-LED lights turned into LED to start saving some money. So my recommendation is, one, again, this is a decision for the people who elected, the people who are elected to make these decisions, not me. You know, I'm the city manager. I put recommendations. I let you know what's going on. That's the research I did on it. That's what I came up with it. It's in the budget right now. If council elects not to, if you notice my memo describing that we'll either have 350 or 700 as a borrow, that's all dependent upon whether we decide to keep the letting assessment on. But I wanted to make sure I was clear and gave a specific. I don't want anyone to think we're trying to sneak anything in, or that there's any taking away of council's decision-making powers on this issue. I just want full information and an opportunity to understand based on those questions I saw on the 20th. I wish I was at the meeting to speak on it with the knowledge at that time. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Questions on the lighting assessment?
Mayor?
Discussion. Councilmember Karafotis.
Okay, so you said from 23 is when we said the 5-year.
Yes.
But actually, we've been paying into this for like 11 years, correct?
Correct.
Because it was when Bob Murray was still here.
Yeah.
And
2011, I believe, is the start of it.
okay, so as a resident, we were all under the impression that we were paying for this for new lights, which only happened when Bob Murray was here. He got the lights. In the last 6 years, we asked over and over again, you know, how many lights did we have changed? We didn't get the answer. We were told that it wasn't getting kept track of by our city administration, that they left it up to DTE. And I understand all the lawyer talk that you just said about, well, we can use it for electricity because that's the improvement, is the electricity. But in my mind, when you hear improvements, you think things are going to be improved. Instead of my light that's 50 years old, I'm going to get a new light. So that's what we thought we were paying into it. Also, when we approved that for the 5 years, it actually wasn't read as a 5-year thing. The 5 years was never read out loud in public. We thought it was an annual. Okay. If you watch that meeting again, when it gets read to make the motion, nobody says 5 years. It was actually on our city paperwork, but it wasn't read out loud that way. So we didn't know that until the following year. And I get that it's only $30. With an assessment, though, is it per household, like the value of your house?
No, it's a flat
straight
$30.
$30 fee, okay. So I guess it's hard for me to say we were all under the impression that we were getting improvements other than electricity. And my personal opinion is our city has to provide us with some services. We do fire department, the police department, and our DPS, and then the residents are paying for just about everything else. Our water, our garbage, we pay for part of our police department, we pay for part of and it just seems like the further out we go, we're just paying for more and more and more. So, I mean, for me, it'd always be, it's only $30, but I would still say no. So we're not voting on that tonight, but when budget comes, we're going to vote whether or not we're going to keep it in or leave it out.
Yeah, council would be available to make a motion during the course of the approval of the budget to do anything just as they did last time. But I just wanted to provide enough information. But on the note, and just in a little defense of assessments, and I understand, you know, I agree. I think these things should naturally be covered in a general operating.
Right, that's
I would
exactly.
love that in a perfect world. However, this year, I've learned a lot about mill rates and Headley and Prop A, particularly in the fact that this year our mill rate actually is going down. You know, it's largely because our property values have increased, and we're only allowed to collect so much % of it. So in the assessments were born of, for Garden City in 2011, and that was to balance the budget. Darrell McClary and those, they moved rubbish into an assessment. They moved lighting into an assessment. It was all to basically keep
Keep the doors open, I get it.
Yep. But I understand, at the same time, here we are talking about water rate increases, and, you know, in the value of your home is going up, so your taxes are going to be going up. So it's about balancing those two things, and, you know, it's ultimately, you know, the 7 council members' determination as to how we do those things, and I understand either way. Just wanted to put it out there, though.
Okay. Further discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Hughes.
I too, when I voted on the mills, on lighting assessment, I too understood it to be improvements. They're, you know, not just, like I say, lighting. I agree with Councilwoman Karafotis that was my interpretation as a resident. So I have to.
Completely understand, and I wish there was a better term than improvement that we've been given by the Home Rule City Act. You know, it's the lawyer language isn't fun because it doesn't always give that clear, you know, idea. And it's why it's my job to stand up here tonight and try and make people understand that this is what that means, and it's a term of art. But it's unfortunate that that's the way it's referred to, you know, as opposed to any expense necessary to maintain the operation of, or something like that. That would be a little clearer, and just instead using the word improvement in places does create it. The ordinance is not bad, but our charter only really speaks to improvement, and then the Home Rule City Act speaks to improvement. So it's not fun.
It was not portrayed as improvement. It was for the Home Rule Act. It was portrayed as we're going to improve our lighting, and we didn't for 11 years.
Mayor?
Councilmember King.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Gibbons for the explanation, because, I mean, nothing's worse than looks like the city's doing something deceitful or not correct. So appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. Further comments from the table? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gibbons, for all the information. Item B, action items. This is to call for a public hearing. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce and call for a public hearing on the 2025-2026 water and sewer rate ordinance to be held on Monday, May 19th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Support. Support from Mayor Pro Tem Dold. Discussion from the table? From the public, and this is only on the calling of the public meeting. Not what we're going to talk about. You'll have that time to discuss all of it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now, public comment. Now's time, anybody?
Mayor?
Yes.
Is there a correct time for, can I make a motion about something? How does that work during a budget meeting?
Yeah, for budget meetings, I've stressed in the past, if it's not on the agenda, I don't like motions brought up at a budget meeting, just because people may have looked at the agenda online, said, okay, you know, made their determination if they were coming based on what was on there, and I don't want to run the risk of like, okay, we did something, people didn't know in advance of it, and now it's like, looks like we're doing something, trying to sneak something in.
Okay, no problem. I think that most of the residents would appreciate it. However, well, I could make a recommendation, but I'd rather it be official, so I will speak to you and we'll get it on the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Kim?
Also, Mr. Mayor, I just noticed there was an item for discussion. I just want to make sure in regards to the budget. We had council budget discussion, and on the agenda, I just caught it. I apologize. And I just wanted to make sure I gave council an opportunity, if they had any questions regarding the budget or any final discussions. This is our last budget meeting prior to voting on the budget on May 19th. We have one more council meeting, so certainly we have a little more time, but I just wanted one last offer to council to,
I think we'll be able to, after public comment, we'll have council comments, so I think that would be the time to do that.
that's fine, thank you.
Oh, Mayor?
Councilmember King.
Well, the only, I guess, issue, if you do it during comments, does other council members have opportunity to comment
They can.
also?
Yes,
Continue to be jumping, okay.
we can. Okay, so is there public comment on tonight's agenda?
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you for your honest appraisal of our situation, where we stand today. For those of you who have been on this council and claimed that our previous city manager was the best we'd ever have, I have some very sharp words for you, but I'll leave those to your imaginations. For the rest of you, please take this as an eye-opener. Having somebody make you feel good about the things that he's telling you, about the way that the city is being run, doesn't always mean that it is being done good. Being able to see the proof of it today, I am absolutely infuriated. I am beyond angry. I considered not making comments today because I am just so angry, but I felt it was necessary. The state that we are in, the situation that we have come to where we have to make a decision to raise our rates, such a drastic amount. Number one, I'm of two nations on this. Number one, let's do it, get it done with, because then we're solving again. We can just get out of this. But on the other hand, we're Garden City. We're not Beverly Hills. We're not Brighton. We're not Livonia. We don't have people making an average six-figure salary in this city. For this to be allowed to have happened is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Mr. Gibbons, Chief, thank you for your service to the city. I hope you continue to be here. Please don't take my anger as being directed at you. You are potentially the person that came here to save us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments?
Well, I learned too much tonight about the budget, and especially the water fund, because before we didn't have ready to serve at the water fund. Now we got it on sewers and that, which was fine with me with the time we did it, because there was more fire than anything else you've been doing. But I don't know what happened to all that money. That was supposed to have been for upkeep of the lines. Ready to serve was supposed to be a maintenance fee, basically. And I don't know where that went, because you was charging, I know it wasn't seemed like a lot, but it was over all the years. That disappeared too. And I'm not going to blame the last city manager. It's time to get off of that bandwagon. You guys did a lot of work on new lines, and you dropped down all that reserve. I understand that too. But to blame him, this council's to blame. You all voted for the budgets. Yes, you did. You voted for every budget they put up here. You always pass the budget. Don't they pass the budget in the council? The budget's passed by the council every year. So don't tell me you didn't vote for the budget. And Plant Moran did your audit every year, and I don't know why none of that was brought forward if it was in the audit. So let's quit blaming the past, because the past is gone. And let's get my road fixed, because I'm not going to be around a heck of a long time, but I better be around long enough to see that road stay in the shape it's in now, because it was just done. It ain't even been a year, and it's already deteriorating. So, and I understand you said they're going to seal it, and I'm assuming that's a contractor's approval by somebody, engineers, to take care of the problem. I've got my doubts about it, serious doubts. But let's get off of the bandwagon of the old city manager. He's gone. Whatever happens, this council take that back. Some of the council's responsible for the last ones. 3 of you are not responsible.
Thank you.
First of all, to that, most of the council who approved all that is gone. The people who asked questions always got crapped on when they were trying to find out exactly where things were going and what was going on. problem I have with when you say it'll go back down after, the water thing will go back down after the first year, is every time we're told it'll go down, that never happens. Never. It always ends up going up. You want to raise the water rates, you want to raise that. Like he said, we're not a rich city. So I just hope you guys all consider that as a new council and look at your residents, not, and yes, a lot of it has to do with the old city manager. You can't deny that. I mean, how many vehicles were bought and how many, everything was bought with money we didn't really have. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul, so that's it.
Thank you. Further comments?
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm from Garden City. So I'm a relatively new resident here, so I don't have a lot of history of what has happened in the past. But I also work at Detroit Metro Airport, so I understand governance and government spending and how things can kind of spiral out of control. So I appreciate all the information that you provided, Tim. It was a lot of good information to kind of bring us up to speed on what's going on. And it's not easy having that conversation. So I applaud you for giving that. Some of the things that I want to say, so obviously there's probably going to be a rate increase to correct this. Some of the things that we might be able to do, that council and the city might be able to do to help the residents, maybe with the, I think there's a monthly or bi-monthly water newsletter, maybe have a section to say, this is how you can save some money on your usage, like turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth while you're brushing, some simple stuff like that. Reduce irrigation if you do have sprinklers, things of that nature. Also going with what some of the council members said for maybe splitting or reducing the total impact up front, maybe a 30%, 20%, and then go into the 4%, something of that nature, year 1, 2, 3, and so on. This year, we've been seeing a lot of tariffs, a lot of increase in prices on things that are necessities in our daily lives as Americans. So trying to reduce some of that impact, such as this, would be, I think, beneficial, because there's not just water that's increasing for us. That's for something else. The other thing, I know you mentioned that trying to come up with some SOPs to come up for processes to keep track of this. Hopefully this isn't just something you're looking to do for water, but also other expenditures as well. And it would be an automated system, not just relying on a yearly audit. I know at my work we use Oracle to help keep track of our purchase orders. There's obviously other softwares out there for keeping track of that. So it would be a really good way to digitally audit and kind of keep track of in between audit, your audits and assessments. So that's some of the things I would like to maybe see in another follow-up meeting and some of these ideas, and I'll definitely look forward to seeing you all on May 19th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, further comments? Okay. Anything else for city manager? Mr. Gibbons?
No, Mayor, that's all for me tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you have anything?
Just thanks to everyone who came out to Shred Day this weekend. So the weather kind of cooperated. It wasn't the greatest, but at least it only misting rain. But thanks for everyone who came out, all the volunteers from City Hall, Family Resource Center, communications. We didn't account for the soccer games that were going to be going on across the parking lot, but now we know for next year. But thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
I guess I got a comment on what the residents are speaking tonight about. Everybody's hurting. Tariffs coming in. I see DET wants to raise our rates more. There's a lot on our plates here. And I'm out in this community every day, whether I'm riding my bicycle, walking, in the restaurants. But I had lunch with a senior citizen Thursday, and it kind of broke my heart. He told me he had to take $1,000 a month out of his 401 just to pay his bills. That's money he saved for the golden years. He should be traveling, spending time with his family or whatever, but he's got to do that to pay his bills. That really hit me hard. So we are listening to you. We have a rough decision here to make. Like I always say, be patient. We're working together to get this done in a sensible way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hughes?
I concur with Councilmember Dole on that. We are residents as well, and we understand. I talk to my neighbors. I understand what a hardship this could be for some people. So with what we have, I'm going to do my best to try to make it as palatable as all of us, all of us are in the same boat. We all have to go through this together. And also I'd like to thank the Parks and Rec Director, Erica Smith, for our grand opening over at the City Park with the workout area, and we had a great day, and we also picked up garbage and everything around the park and cleaned it up. So it was a really good day. I want to thank her for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Witt?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to echo a little bit of what Councilmember Hughes said, yes, we are all residents. The decisions we make up here do affect our lives as well. We tend to try and make these decisions as the best interest of the city. I don't look at it as, oh, my bills are going to go up as well, but they do, and it's what happens. The situation's occurred. We're looking to fix it. I thank Tim for, all of the time that you've put in. It's not easy doing all the extra overtime that's not always paid for, but yes, it is going to be tough, and I do agree with Councilmember Karafotis, Councilmember Dold, Councilmember King, where it's potentially offloading some of the percentage increases. I would love to see the numbers from Plant Moran on potential, like maybe a 6-month or 1 year, but over multiple to see. Because yes, everything's getting expensive. I'm a sole income in my house, so I own it. I'm working on trying to pay all my bills as it is too. So, I appreciate public input always. If you see me out, please come up and talk to me. I'm at every city event I possibly can be with my schedule. So, but yes, thank you guys for coming out and voicing your opinions, and we appreciate it. But that's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember King?
Yeah, I second a lot of everything the rest of the councils have already said. It's been definitely a tough year, trying to get our budget aligned. I think we are getting back on track where we need to be. One of the things that I feel has caused us issues or shortcomings of funds is the state revenue sharing. The state, dollar-wise, we are receiving more money state revenue sharing, but percentage-wise, it has not kept up. One of the things I volunteered to be on the Michigan Municipal League Financing Committee, and they're working to get more money from the state to help the constitutional revenue sharing. That's a part of this set amount we always get, but the statutory piece can fluctuate, and is part of the state's appropriations. They are looking to have that fixed also. Another thing I just mentioned, I was at the Kerwin Classics this past weekend. Pretty nice event GCYA puts on. They had, I believe, over 80 teams. They, I think, start playing Thursday all the way to Sunday. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dole?
Sure, just a couple things. I do want to point out, Ms. Canzaroni, I never say your last name right, I'm sorry, and I just checked with Stacy too, sorry. You made the comment that the rate would go down next year. I just want to make sure you understand that the right, so the initial increase would remain, and then there's a possible 4% increase each year after that. Okay, yeah, it's not going to go down. You know what I'm saying? That stays, and then additional increases each year. Hopefully, no more than 4%. The other thing I want to mention, yes, as a council member, I did vote on a lot of things, a lot of money that we spent in the last 2 years that I've been on council. We had processes, we had protocols in place that failed to warn us that these things were happening. We had, and sit there and say, quit blaming the past city manager, but we had a city manager who sat up here and told us time and time again that we had the money. No problem, we had the money. The audits came through, and the audits told us we had the money. No, shake your head. I don't know what to tell you. All of our processes were telling us we could spend this money.
Hold on, this Councilmember.
So I'm just explaining that some of my votes, that's what they were based on. We hire a city manager, we put our trust in a city manager, and I might point out that City Manager Gibbons sat here tonight, and everybody sitting out there believed every word that he just told you. I believe it too, because he's truthful, he's transparent, that's why he's sitting in this job, and we did learn from our past mistakes, believe me. But we had somebody sitting in that chair the last time telling us the same thing, and we believed him because there was no reason not to for a long time. So I'm just saying. So as far as this, as the water rates too, like Councilmember Witt mentioned, we do look out for the best interests of our residents, but at the same time, we also have to look out for the best interests of the city. Sometimes those things don't jive, and it's going to be a hard decision. I'm not sure that any of us know for sure what we're going to do in a couple of weeks, but you know, we look to Plant Moran and to our city manager to give us the information that we need, and that's what we're going to have to base our decision on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Karafotis.
I just have a few things. I had a lot of questions about the budget, but some of them we can just go over later. I did notice that a lot of our budget increases are from retirement. In almost every department, it's a lot.
Well, you'll notice that drastic increase because the last year we didn't pay the proper amount to make what our normal amount is. We paid a one-time set amount of money in the previous year. Well, actually this year, I'm sorry, this year, in order just to basically lessen the volume of the deficit that was going to occur this year and give us an opportunity to repair it. That was a decision made really at the last minute of last budget just to be able to sort of at least give us time to figure out what to do before we spent all our general fund. So this is a return back to paying our pension costs at the normal rate. Because ultimately with those, you have to, it's a required payment. So we kind of pushed off some payments. We kicked the can down the road a little bit in this year's budget in order to give ourselves some breathing room to do now. So now what you see next year is a return to what we have to pay and in an amount that's consistent with responsible payment of the fund.
Okay. And then I would also like to comment that, you know, the past is the reason that we are where we are right here today. And even though there's council members up here that like the previous administration, some that didn't, I know that I questioned things over and over again and was constantly told that I was wrong and that what I was asking about was incorrect. So there's plenty of things that happened that some of us said, hey, we need to pay attention, we're spending all the money, and nobody cared. So one of the main things I want to talk about the budget is, you know, we have to cut a lot of employees, we have to cut payroll, we're making cuts everywhere. And one thing I noticed in the budget that is our ordinance department. Right now we have, we made some cuts. We have one officer that's for commercial properties, and we have one part-time officer for residential properties, and I just don't feel that's enough. We have residents commenting all the time about just the way things look and that where there's not enough ordinance people out there doing it, and now we have even less. So I know it's very challenging for you to try to fix this mess, but I just think when there is a staff that can actually bring us revenue, that we need to think harder about that, because I know that we, last year when we talked about doing extra things, we actually said not to get this position that where we did the ACO, where we did the drone, and where we did the ordinance officer, but we did that anyway. So now we've spent $6,000 on training someone for an ACO animal control officer. We paid for drone training. We paid that person while they were getting training to a tune of $6,000, and I'm just worried that we just trained someone for another city to hire them away from us, because that's how it happens. We pay for someone and then we can't use them, and they're going to leave because it's part-time. Do I know that's going to happen? No, but that's how I feel. I feel like they're going to go somewhere else and we paid for it all. I know that our ordinance officer is very dedicated. They want to stay here. They've come in voluntarily on days that it snowed. I know they wrote over 69 snow tickets last year and 66 snow tickets this year. That's $100 a ticket. That's $12,000. If we had someone here full-time doing that, that's revenue for us. When we didn't have an animal control officer, and then we hired one, in 6 months, our dog license increased by $4,000. That's money revenue coming in. As soon as we got our officer left with that year, the license fees declined $3,000. I'm not even talking about strays or anything like that. I just know if we have an ordinance officer here, writing more tickets for ordinance, also writing, making sure that people are buying their dog license, that there's a lot of money. I also know that the person that went and got all this training is willing to write grants. There's lots of grants out there for animal welfare grants to help pay for their salary, and I think that we could probably get some of those. And so I'm just asking if we could look at that again. Someone that can bring our city revenue, we should be able to keep them working, and we should get back what we put in for our investments of over $6,000 in training. And then the rest of the stuff that I saw in there, maybe I'll bring up at the next budget meeting.
Okay.
Or the next regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple of things. One, I want to thank Mr. Gibbons for all the information. I want to thank the residents that have came out and emailed and called. I know we've probably, everybody's gotten messages and the input, and I echo a lot of the comments about we do take everybody's opinions. We do take them into consideration when we make our decisions. I also agree with Councilmember Karafotis as far as the ordinance. I think that's a big deal. I think I probably get more calls on blight, stuff left out, and other ordinance issues. So I do agree that that's income that we could get. We do have some hard decisions. I want to thank council for all their comments, all their input. I know they're constantly talking to Mr. Gibbons, getting more information. So we try to be as informed as we possibly can. We don't take it lightly. And to echo comments again, we're all affected by the same thing. And I don't know personally of any of us that are that rich that aren't concerned about raising any kind of prices for any of us. So we will take that into consideration. I'm sure we'll have more questions, and we'll listen to more comments from the public as this moves forward. Having said all that, no further business. This meeting is adjourned.